Hello everyone, this is the Mining Geologist and I'm back again with another very exciting and very informative tutorial. Today we are going to take a look at Micromine, the version 2022 to be exact, which is currently the latest version of Micromine. Now, in this tutorial, we are going to see something a little bit different about Micromine because we're not doing any geological modeling or pit design or dam design or scheduling or whatever. We're going to take a look at the scripting menu in Micromine. And why this is really important, let me tell you why. So a lot of packages, a lot of other packages other than Micromine, to be like without mentioning the names, they use their own scripting language. Okay, so what does that mean? It means that after you get the software, you need and you're familiar with the software, and there's like a custom problem that you want to solve using the software, and there's no built-in tools inside that specific software. You need now to learn that, scripting language that is you're only going to use that in that specific software. So you can see the struggle there. But inside Micromine, the good thing, and a lot of other packages there starting to implement this thing too, is that instead of creating their own scripting language, they add Python as a scripting language. Why this is really powerful? It is powerful because a lot of the geoscientists now, they already know Python, and it's a well documented scripting language, and you can learn that really easily, and there's plenty of tutorials online, whether they are free or paid tutorials. And the combination of the tool, or Micromine in our case, and Python will open a lot of doors for you. So maybe you're stuck in a problem that it is very specific to your needs, and the software cannot actually create a tool like for everyone to solve every single problem. But they give you this option of, or this scripting option that allows you like to extend the possibilities or the tools of the software, that and you can solve custom things related to you. So if there's not a tool to, like, I don't know, like to do a specific thing, and if you combine two options inside Micromine and you add maybe an equation, you can solve that specific thing, then you can do that inside Micromine. So if Micromine have 1,000 tool that can solve 1,000 problem, with Python now you can solve 1,000,000 problem with Micromine. So that's really a powerful thing and a good move from the Micromine team. So guys, congratulations. So let's go and take a look at a simple thing that we can do in Micromine, but you will see that the possibilities are unlimited, so it really depends on you and your imagination. Okay, so if you go to the scripting menu, you can see that we can open the script editor if you have already some scripts that you can use, or we can also record things in here. Okay, so let's go and open the script editor, and you can see also that sorry, we can see also that I've created a point layer, so you can easily go to here and create a point layer, and I called that Python PDS.dat. So this is going to be my file, and it is stored in the system. If I click in here, I'm going to see what is the path of this file. Now in Micromine, we have a lot of fields. So basically, or the basic fields are the X and Y. So you'll have the X and Y for this, for any, a layer. These are mandatory fields, and you can see that they are in red. And we have the elevation or other things that you can find here that really depends on the type of the layer. So in a block model, for example, you'll find plenty of things, like the block size and maybe different attributes that you've created. And in the string, maybe you'll find like the join field and so on. So that's why I started with a point layer, because we have really not too much here. Basically, we have the X and Y and the elevation. But what we are going to try to do now is we are trying to modify this point layer but using Python scripting. So if we were able to modify, a very simple, very simple thing like adding a field or adding a record, and now if we do any kind of calculation, then we can also, add that inside the layer. We can go and create a wireframe out of that, or maybe we can go and interpolate that as a grid, and we can do pretty much anything that you can imagine. Okay, so let's start with something really basic. Now, this tutorial, to be honest, is not going to be covering the basics of Python. As always, I'm going to be assuming that you guys know the basics of Python, like what is a variable, what is a function, what is a method, and so on. But if you're not familiar with that, there's plenty of tutorials on YouTube and online that will teach you the basics of Python. So you can do that and get back here if you want to, learn more about these advanced stuff. Or they're basics. They're the basics, but if you're not familiar with Python, this looks like something advanced for you. And another thing here that I want to mention is that maybe you are familiar with Python, but you will notice that I use, for example, like file.structure or mmpy field type.real, and you will be thinking, this is for someone who is familiar with all the different functions and methods that are related to Micromine. What if I'm not? Well, let me give you this small hint here. 30 minutes ago, probably, or maybe 1 hour ago, I was not familiar with a lot of things here, but now I'm familiar with them. And how is that? It's not magic. Basically, you have the script editor help in here. Now, if you know what you're doing, if you know, for example, you want to add a record to the this point layer in here, so you're looking to add a record to a file, you can go to here and search, and you can see that we're looking at the block model here. In our case, it's not a block model, and colors and so on, grids. File, okay, we have a file here. Oh, we have a file.add record. You can click on this one, and then Micromine is going to give you, a lot of instructions in here about how to use this one. You can see that we need to start a variable called file, or you can call it whatever you want, and it's going to create a file instance for us. Or we can go and open a file, and we pass in the path in here. Okay, that's really simple, and you can see you can go through this and you start to understand a lot of things. So in order to create a file instance, we are going to use mmpy.file, and if we want to add a record, we need to add this line here, that if not file, add record, and so on, this to handle the error. And then for the file ID, to access a specific ID, we use file.getID, and we pass in the value, whether it is the easting, the northing, or the grade, or whatever you want, so you can change the value here with whatever thing you want. Then the count is basically the variable, and we store the count by using the file.records.count. This is going to give us the count of all the different records inside that specific file. We store that as a count variable, and this is all to use it in here. So we say file set field value. We're going to set a value to a specific field. We use the field ID, which so we looked at what is the ID of the easting, for example. It's going to be, for example, 2. So you can also use 2 if you know what you're doing. If you know that the easting, for example, the ID of the easting is 2, you can use 2 directly here. And if you know also the count, you can use the count directly here. But if you want to get the count, you can use file record counts. And then you can add the value in here. If it's string value, you need to add a string in here. If it's like a grade, maybe it could be a real number like 5.5 or whatever, you can use the number directly in here. And it's going to be added to the end of that file. So you can see that it is easy, and all you have to do is to navigate and search for whatever you want, and you will find examples, and you can also find all the different options that you can use for that specific, function or method or whatever it is. So let me walk you through an example in here so that you get an idea. Basically now, if you have installed some libraries like NumPy, for example, numeric Python, which will help you do all the matrices stuff like dot products and so on. We've already used that in the last tutorial when we created an ordinary kriging from scratch in Python. You can go and look at that in the previous tutorial. So you will find the link taking to that tutorial somewhere in here. Pandas is for table manipulation, and this is a really interesting and cool library here. We use it a lot in data science and artificial intelligence and geoscience also. It's a really important package. And basically what I've done here is I've created a file instance using that one. We saw that from the help menu in here. And then now I'm opening this exact file here. I can go to edit form and take a look at, click on here and get the path. And all I have to do is to pass it in here and add in that R to read that in there. So we're opening this file. Now we open this one, and now we can read all the different things inside this file. Now you can see now that the records, now we have east, north, RL for the elevation and the code. What we can do now is we can add, let's say, we can add a new field. We call that grade. Maybe we want to have some points with a grade value that we can create maybe a grade out of that later on. So basically you can see the count. We're using file records count to take a look at the counts of the different fields. And then the structure, we're looking at the structure of the file. We're storing that as structure. Why we're doing this? Because we want to change the structure of the file by adding a new field. And for that one, we will need to add the grade. This is the new field that we are going to be creating. And we use mmpy field type dot real. This is going to be a real. Maybe you can change this to char if you want to use a character, or maybe you want to use an integer. So this is going to be the field type is going to change in here based on what you want to create. And in our case, if it is a real one, so we want to make the field precision to 4, so we can have up to 4 decimals. Okay, then we add this line because we want to change the structure, or want to update the structure in a way that it will include that the new grade field in here. So let's go and run this and see what happens. And you can see that the script runs successfully. What I can do now is I can go to open field, and you can see now that we have a grade value, a grade field. And this is really cool. Now, without going to all of this, we were able to add a grade. And the same way we've added this one, we can add multiple, fields to this specific file. Now let's go and delete that one. How do we do that? Let me go to here and comment this out. In Python, if you want to get rid of a line without deleting it, we call that a command. So all you have to do is to add the hashtag in here. So when the script is going to run, it's going to skip all of these. So let's go, and this is to delete a field. That's a command there. So let me go and do this again. So this is gonna go to the field ID, look at the field ID of the field grade, store that in here, then look at the structure again and delete that specific field ID, and then go and create that structure again. I believe that we will need this to be here. So let me go and run this. And now if I go and refresh this, and I'm gonna go and open the input file, you can see that we don't have that grade value now, and this is really interesting. So let me go and command all of these now and show you something cool that we can do. Okay, so basically, if you guys are familiar with NumPy on a mesh grid, this is what we can do. So basically, we are creating a lin space here. So we're creating some values between 0 and 100, and we're creating a value every 10. So we're dividing this range by 10, and we're getting 10 values, and we're doing the same thing for y. Okay, then what we can do here is with NumPy mesh grid, we're going to input all of these, and we are going to create some sort of a grid. So we're going to have a matrix of, let's say 0, 10, 20, and so on, repeated on the x, and the same one repeated on the y. And then what we are going to create here is some empty lists, and we are going to create some values. So basically what we're doing here, we already covered that in the previous tutorial when we created a mesh grid in order to interpolate some unknown points using the ordinary kriging. So this is basically how to use mesh grid. We're creating a grid of different points of x and y that have a value between 0 and 100 in the x and 0 and 100 in the y. We have 10 values. We can change this to 100 values, for example, if we want more points and more precision maybe, and you want your grid to be, increase the resolution of your grid. So just keep that in your mind. And if you want to learn more about this one, just Google in, an NumPy mesh grid, and you can write a lot of cool articles about how to create mesh grids in there. So what we're doing now, we are just creating that grid, and we're assigning all of these values to a pandas, all of your different unique values combination between x and y to a pandas data frame. And we can go and print this one if you want. So let me go and run this. And you can see what we've done here. Basically, we have 0 and 0, 11 and 0, 22 and 0, and so on, then until we have this 100 and 100 and so on. So basically, we've created a combination, like a grid, a combination between the different x and y values. In our case, we don't need this one, but I've created that to test it. And now what we are going to do is we are going to set the field ID. So we have a field ID. We're looking at the ID of the east, and the ID, we call that ID2 for the north. So we stored that inside these two. Then we are going to take a look at the count. So currently we have 0. So we don't have any fields in here. If you look at this one, the input file, you can see that we have 0 records. And what we do is we are going to loop through all the different values, these 100 values inside the grid. Okay, we are going to look at all of these values, and we are going to use that add record. It's basically simple. All what I've done is I looked at how to add a record, and Micromine help menu told me that I need to add this line here, which is file add record, rise this error, and so on. I've added that one, and now with this now for every single one of the lines in here, so I'm looping through all of these. When I'm at this line here, what I'm going to do is I look at the count starts as 0 because the file is empty. I add 1 to that count. Okay, so when I loop again to this one, it's going to have 1, so plus 1 is going to be 2, and so on. This will allow me to go to the next line inside this file and add the next value. And all what I do now is I'm going to assign the x. So this x I'm going to assign to the easting because it is field ID, which is this one, and look at the count in here, and assign the x value and the next one, and at the same time assign the field ID to, I assign the y. So what is going to happen here is when I run this script, you can see now if I go to this one and refresh it, it's going to tell me there are some changes. You want to save that? Yes, I want to save that. And look at this. I've created some points inside this one without, having to do that manually. So if you have something in your mind, so this is a grid that we've created. Now remember when I told you that I can increase the resolution? Let's go and do that. So let me go to File. Let me go to right click and edit form. Open file. And I'm going to select all of these records and delete all of them. So let me go and close this one, refresh it. And yes, I've deleted everything. So let's go now and increase the resolution. Maybe I want to 1 point every 1 meter. And let me go and run this. Now, if I go and refresh this one and save it, you can see now I've created another grid, but now with more points. Now, this might look like very simple, and you might already you are able to do this in Micromine easily, but what I wanted to show you is that you can create whatever the thing you're thinking about in your mind using Python in Micromine. So the next thing, for example, I can take that script that I've created in Python to do ordinary kriging. Maybe you don't have access to like some statistical tools or geostatistical tools in Micromine. What you can do is you can create that in Python and use it easily. And if you have been following me on LinkedIn, I was able to create a pit design, automated pit design in Python. Now what I can do is I can grab that script in Python, in Micromine, and maybe I don't have access to like the mining module in it, but I know in my mind how to do that. Then I can create the pit design in Micromine using Python. So that's why I told you that if Micromine can do like have 1,000 tools and you can solve 1,000 problems, with Python, with this scripting option in Micromine and the ability to do scripts in Python, now you can solve 1,000,000 problems. And this is a really huge advantage in Micromine that you can't find in other packages without mentioning the names. So you don't have to learn a scripting language that you can use only in that specific software, but you can use a really known scripting language like Python inside Micromine, and you can extend the options that you have, or you can extend the possibilities of Micromine 1,000 times more. So you will be able to solve plenty of problems now with this amazing option in Micromine, which allows you to do scripting in Python. And as you can see, it's really easy. Like I told you, trust me, literally it was like 30 minutes to learn all the different things. So you can learn as you go. So you want to add a record, you can search for that. You're working with block models now. You can see that I can copy block model. As you can see, it's self-explanatory. You can add a block, you can close the block model, you can get the field ID, and the more you play around with these kind of things, the more you will have new ideas. Like maybe let's say there's a new geostatistical method that it's not implemented in the in Micromine yet, but the equation of that, how you can apply that. All you have to do is you can write the code of that one and you can try it inside Micromine, and this is really amazing feature. By the way, if you're following me on LinkedIn, and if you're not, make sure to follow me on LinkedIn. I will be sharing some cool stuff that you can use with Python and Micromine. And if you have access to a Micromine license, you can reach out to me and I can share all of the different scripts that I create. I can share it with you. So with that being said, I hope this tutorial was informative and you've learned something new today. So make sure to subscribe and see you in the next tutorial.